NBC's Julie Sirkin is covering the Harris campaign on the ground in Pennsylvania. Zerlina Maxwell is the former director of progressive media for the Hillary Clinton campaign, and former Congressman Carlos Curbelo is back with us. Zerlina, let's sort of start helping people understand what we're talking about, because for folks who don't know how sophisticated data and technology around voters has become, let's just say the Harris campaign didn't randomly decide to focus on voters of Eastern European descent, right? So explain to us how those voter databases, how sophisticated they are, what they can tell a campaign, how granular the information that allows them to do these kinds of things.
Oh, it's so interesting. So in the voter file, you have all kinds of information, based biographical information, where people have lived in the community that they vote in, who they voted for, how many times they show up to vote in what elections, whether they be national, local, statewide. And using that information, you can target them with specific messaging. So you're not just working with all the Democratic voters and you're trying to, with a broad message to those voters. You can micro-target these voters, as you just alluded to, and talk about a specific issue that voter bloc cares about. So I think that this could resonate with people who have those emotional, visceral ties to their nation. Maybe their grandparents came here from Poland, or their parents came here from Poland. So I think that this is really smart. But the other reason why this is really smart is because you can't only rely on your base of support. Now, you're going to want to mobilize as many people in the Democratic base, those reliable voters, to early vote. But you also need to bring out people in rural communities, people in the Polish community, and close those margins in some of those redder parts of states that are purple, so that Donald Trump doesn't run away with certain precincts and counties. You want to close those gaps in some of the more red parts of the state and boost turnout in the more blue, reliable parts of the state. That's how you build a winning coalition.
So, Carlos, it's not just the Harris campaign that is appealing to these swing state voters with ties to Eastern Europe. There's a super PAC that's supporting her that has put out an ad. Let me play part of that.
American presidents, Republican and Democrat, have always defied Russia's communist dictators and defended American ideals. Kamala Harris gets this.
If we stand by while an aggressor invades its neighbor with impunity, they will keep going.
Kamala Harris will stand up to Putin, protect our allies, and keep us safe.
And she's name-checked Poland as a place that would be first threatened if that happened. So how striking, Carlos, is it to see them and her lean into what was a Ronald Reagan playbook?
Well, Chris, a couple things. Number one, when you do well in fundraising, and clearly she has, you have the resources to be creative and to go outside of what your party has traditionally done, which is just focusing on the base of support. This is also a recognition, I think, Chris, that Democrats have suffered some base erosion. We know from polling that Donald Trump is doing better among Hispanics, among African Americans than Republicans have typically done in presidential elections. So the Harris campaign, I think, is looking for ways to backfill that erosion of the Democratic base with groups that Donald Trump has had some success with. And this does make a lot of sense, because Donald Trump's position on Ukraine has certainly been nuanced, if we want to just call it a neutral term, than past Republican presidents. So Harris is actually going for people who probably in the past have voted for candidates like the Bushes and Mitt Romney and John McCain.
The last I checked, Julie, we've got 53 days left. That's it until Election Day. Last I checked, I think Harris had $404 million cash on hand. Tell us more about this major fundraising haul that they raised, they say, in just 24 hours after the debate.
Chris, $47 million. What's more interesting and notable is that it came from 600,000 individual donors. More than 70% of those donors were actually women. And when you look at the debate night, one of the strongest moments that Harris was able to have against former President Trump was, of course, having to do with reproductive rights, having to do with abortion. And so you see that spike come from that group of the demographic. And certainly when we're here in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, this is part of Lucerne County. This is not necessarily friendly territory for Harris. This is a place that went for former President Trump by 14 points in 2020. You could see Harris trying to make that outreach, trying to make an appeal, and trying to maybe take some of those margins away from the former president, which, by the way, when you're looking at fundraising numbers, I think it is notable to point out that after his indictments, after he had legal troubles, his campaign was very quick to point out how much they had in the bank, how much they were able to fundraise. This time around, we haven't heard anything, right? Instead, you see the former president, who we're, of course, monitoring that press conference with, he's doing donor stops, fundraising stops, which is, again, notable in itself, given that we're 50 some odd days away from the election. But certainly Harris here riding a high into this rally tonight, as she has all week long, hoping to maintain that boost that she got from the debate, which polls have shown that she clearly won.